That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, it's time that we get to y'all's favorite videos of the week. We are going to be talking about our buy low wide receivers and running backs, and also our sell high wide receivers and running backs. But guys, please, if y'all have not already subscribed to the channel, I mean, what are y'all doing by now? No YouTube channel ever really works this hard for y'all. I go out there and I live stream every single night to answer as many of your questions as possible for about 4 hours. On top of that, we're making 3 to 4 videos a day. So guys, if y'all have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Make sure you go down there, hit that sub button. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers soon. Then I'm going to make that video of my NFL Combine. I've gotten actually a lot of people saying they wanted it. I was kind of surprised about the demand of it. But also, guys, I'm going to be live streaming at 9 p.m. tonight, and on Thursday night, we're going to be live streaming after the game. Friday and Saturday night, we are also going to be live streaming at 9 p.m. Central. And guys, remember, I am only answering general chat questions and ignoring the donation questions for the first 10 to 15 minutes of the live stream. So make sure you come in early. Make sure you have that bell hit next to the subscribe button. That way you can come in and get your question answered right away. Okay, now let's get into these 5 wide receivers. And our first buy low wide receiver is someone that I actually told you to start a ton last week, and I got it horribly wrong. And this is DJ Chark. So I understand when we are going out and trying to evaluate DJ Chark for the rest of the season, we are going to have a lot of haters coming in saying, Mason, DJ Chark has been horrible. I mean, look at his stats, look at his stats, look at his stats. And I'm here saying, guys, we have to understand, if you take the games that DJ Chark has been healthy and you take the games that he has been hurt and you kind of look at them in a black and white scenario, guys, I mean, it is a night and day difference in terms of the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive production, in terms of the Jacksonville Jaguars efficiency in pushing the ball down the field. And that's because DJ Chark is providing that vertical threat on this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And I understand that just because DJ Chark significantly helps Gardner Minshew in the offense does not necessarily make him a player that we definitely want on our fantasy football rosters. But what I will say is when these vertical threats are getting the consistent targets, that's when we want to take notice. That's why there's a massive difference on every vertical threat in the NFL. Like if we look at a guy like Michael Gallup or a Christian Kirk, while those two players are playing the deep threat role on their own offenses, we're not necessarily too excited about going and rostering either one of those two players. And in the case of Christian Kirk, he may make our sell high wide receiver video later. We will see. But it's because they are not necessarily getting the target shares because they are operating as that stretch wide receiver. And at the same time, there's that traditional X wide receiver on their offense getting all the targets. But in the case of a DJ Chark, in the case of a Terry McLaurin, in the case of a Hollywood Brown, all of these wide receivers are not only having that very large depth of target, but at the same time, they are seeing that high target share where we are actually coming off a week where DJ Chark saw 26% of the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive targets. So I understand that he is going to be volatile week to week, but I am putting him in the same classification of a wide receiver as a Marquise Brown, where both of these guys are going to be a little bit more volatile, and that's just because their depth of target is so high, but they are getting such a large opportunity of their offense. Those spike weeks that they're going to be able to provide for you are going to be massive. So please, I promise y'all guys, you're going to see DJ Chark hit some waiver wires. You're going to see some people just completely want out on DJ Chark. Please send your owner a DM, say, hey man, what are you looking for DJ Chark? And he's probably going to be thanking you for taking him off of his roster. Okay, now let's get into our next wide receiver and let's talk about DK Metcalf. Now guys, I understand we had Tyler Lockett as our buy low the past 2 weeks. Still, that does not change our fact on what we are expecting from DK Metcalf, who's coming off of a very disappointing performance against the Arizona Cardinals, where Tyler Lockett just completely blew up. DK Metcalf only saw 5 targets and 2 receptions in a game where so many points were scored, and it's just because we saw Tyler Lockett go absolutely insane. Tyler Lockett saw 20 targets, had 200 yards. I mean, just not something you're going to be projecting from Tyler Lockett in many games. And I think we have to understand that if this Seattle Seahawks offense is going to continue to throw at this kind of volume with probably the second best quarterback in the NFL, I think it's safe to say at this point that DK Metcalf is going to be a great option going forward. I think that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are going to be very similar to what we saw with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in 2019 when Jameis Winston led the NFL in yards. The only difference is I don't think that we end up seeing the consistency from those same two wide receivers. I think if we look at the end of the year, the points per game are going to be about the same, but it's just going to be a little bit more volatile because when we're looking at a wide receiver like a DK Metcalf, he's very similar to what we just talked about in DJ Chark. He's really operating as that vertical field stretcher on this offense. So yes, he's going to be a little bit more volatile, but we have to understand that those spikes are going to be so high like we saw earlier on this season that it's going to greatly outweigh the dips in production that you have in your starting lineup. And this is a player that can go out there and flat out win you a week straight up. So coming off a week where he did not get much action against the Arizona Cardinals, I'm definitely going to be putting out some feelers for DK Metcalf to see if I can get him on my roster for the low. Now, our next wide receiver had a very tough matchup this past week, and his offense looks atrocious, but this is Allen Robinson. So Allen Robinson only saw 4 targets this past game, but we have to remember, guys, Allen Robinson was going up against Jalen Ramsey, and this is a situation that we are not going to be wanting to really attack with our wide receivers in fantasy in 2020. Because while Jalen Ramsey is definitely not the same quality of player that he was back in Jacksonville, he is still at the very top of defensive backs in the NFL, and he is that shadow corner where he is going and he's following Allen Robinson around the field. He's not like a Richard Sherman where you could literally just take your alpha wide receiver, plop him on the other side of the field, and have him have a day. But anyway, when we are looking to project Allen Robinson going forward, he's another player like we're talking about with a DJ Chark, with a Terry McLaurin, where he's seeing about 25 to 30% of his team's targets. And I understand that not every player like that is going to be an instant impact player for you for your starting lineup. But with Allen Robinson and how damn talented Allen Robinson is, I don't think that we can look at that opportunity with anything else other than excitement. Just because we know that Allen Robinson not only is going to provide us a high yards per target, but at the same time, he does have a good amount of touchdown equity, knowing that he is a great red zone weapon. So I think this is one wide receiver that can take that large target share and can have an easy job converting that over to fantasy production. So coming off a tough week where he had to go up against Jalen Ramsey, please go out there and try to buy Allen Robinson. Now, our next wide receiver, not someone that's going to come at too much of a discount, but overall, I just feel like I need to bring him up, and this is Stefon Diggs. So with Stefon Diggs, guys, I know this Buffalo Bills offense has looked like it's taken 3 steps back over the past 2 weeks, but still, we have to understand that without John Brown in this offense, they are missing that vertical threat. And yes, generally when one wide receiver leaves an offense, we expect a bump up in targets for the other wide receivers in that offense. And if anything, it will probably raise the other wide receivers' values in their respective offenses. Well, that is not the case with John Brown, because John Brown is a wide receiver that does not command a significant amount of targets, but his impact on the football field is large in that he is one of these great field stretching wide receivers where he takes so much attention away from the opposing defense's safeties, where we can actually see Stefon Diggs, the traditional alpha X wide receiver in this offense, come out and have great success all over the football field without that vertical threat. And if you slide in Cole Beasley in there, it's not going to be anything the same. The opposing team is going to be able to solely focus on Stefon Diggs, and I think that's how they kind of shut down Josh Allen the past couple of weeks. With John Brown coming back into this offense, I honestly think there's going to be more production overall to be found in the offense, starting with Stefon Diggs. So not a player you're going to be able to buy at a super low price, but still someone I thought that was worthy of bringing up, just so I can talk about why his struggles were kind of there over the past few weeks. Even though he's still seeing the opportunity, I just think that we are going to actually see that efficiency bump up with Stefon Diggs and his targets once we get John Brown back in this offense. Now, our last wide receiver, you're going to be able to buy him at an extreme discount because, I'm getting questions asking if you should drop this guy in the live streams, and this is CeeDee Lamb. So yeah, guys, I know CeeDee Lamb did not record one reception. He did not get 1 yard this past week off of 5 targets. He had a nasty drop over the middle. But still, I think we have to understand the production that we saw from CeeDee Lamb at the very beginning of the season when he was only 21 years old puts him in an elite class of age-adjusted production wide receivers. I mean, he looks absolutely insane. I kept on saying that he was like A.J. Brown, who hit at the very beginning of the season instead at the end of 2019. And obviously, we are going to be lowering our projections now that we've seen Andy Dalton and this offensive line just be absolutely atrocious the past 2 weeks. But I think that CeeDee Lamb can literally only go up. It can't get worse than this. And unlike in Ezekiel Elliott, where I'm telling y'all I'm not necessarily going out and trying to buy him low, I think that with CeeDee Lamb, it's a little bit different because wide receivers can kind of produce fantasy production strictly off of their talent if they can go out there and they can command those targets. Generally, I know that they're not necessarily going to be able to hit that high ceiling that they would need with a decent quarterback, but it's not like the running back position where it's entirely situational based. The wide receiver position is actually based a ton about your own talent, and I think CeeDee Lamb, honestly, is just like probably a top 15 wide receiver in terms of pure talent in the NFL. So if you can go out there and you can buy him for just as a throw-in in a trade and value him as wide receiver 4, this is a guy based on his talent alone, and if he continues to progress throughout his rookie season in terms of his routes running, in terms of his just timing with Andy Dalton, I think he does have the potential to jump up and be a high-end wide receiver 3. Okay, now thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, please make sure you go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, that's all I got, and have a great day, guys.